Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, this is an old article, but I've been wanting to cover this for a while. This is from Tampa Bay Times. Ex-Scientology leader, prestigious executive, Debbie Cook moved to Carribean island. Former Scientology executive Debbie Cook and her husband, Wayne Baumgarten, were in civil court in San Antonio, Texas. By Thomas C. Tobin, published June 20th, 2012. Isn't this great that this woman who abused all these children gets off? Isn't that fantastic? All those little children at the Fort Harrison Hotel that she abused, made to give wealthy Scientologists massages, forced children to do auditing of grown men and grown women, asking sexual questions, screaming and hollering at them, alleged by Serge Delmar because he was there. Isn't it great that she took her little payment and went to the Caribbean? Isn't that fantastic? Meanwhile, she never helped protect any of those children in the Fort Harrison Hotel or the various hotels throughout the world, like the ones used in UK, where SP Chef was, and the hotels as well in Los Angeles, where the children are forced to do manual labor, forced oftentimes into sexual abuse, forced into physical abuse and neglect, and alleged by Serge Delmar and others that Debbie Cook abused children heinously at Fort Harrison Hotel. She gets off, gets paid a lot of money, and goes to Texas, doesn't help anyone except herself. Facts. Facts. Has the nerve to say she was abused because she was called a lesbian and put in a garbage can. Meanwhile, all these little children are scrubbing dumpsters with toothbrushes, scrubbing the bathrooms in Scientology because apparently no adults know how to scrub toilets or clean bathrooms in Scientology. That's what the children in Scientology get right now as we effing speak. And I've had enough of it. All these ads. Former Scientology officer and child abuser alleged Debbie Cook, who rocked the church earlier this year with damaging testimony. Really? Who did she damage? Inquiring MF minds want to know. Before agreeing to stay silent forever. Sucks for the children getting raped in Scientology, doesn't it? We'll move this week to the Caribbean island of Guadalupe, friends say. She saved herself, didn't she? Just like a lot of the other prestigious executives that are abusive towards Miriam Francis, etc. You better start rolling. You better start talking about the abuse of children or the children that you abused, or you're going down. If not now, in the afterlife. And that's a fact. She and her husband, Wayne Baumgarten, have sold their car, their furniture, and many other household possessions. Imagine that. A lot of Scientologists don't even have the money for that. Said John Donley, a web designer and media consultant who worked for the couple in 2010 and 2011 at their now defunct marketing company in San Antonio, Texas. The couple is keeping their home on the outskirts of that city and will rent it. Isn't that great? Gotta wonder if she's renting to other Scientologists. Wake up, people. Why they chose Guadalupe isn't clear. The island in the Lesser Antilles is an overseas territory of France. Isn't that great? She gets to sip blue rum drinks out there in the Caribbean. The island is the Lesser Antilles, is an overseas territory of France whose government has taken a strong stance against Scientology. Good. The church likely has little, if any, presence there. You know why they went after her so much? Because she had a lot of information. That's why. A lot of Scientologists don't care about other Scientologists, and that's a fact. All these people like protecting them, it makes me sick. I mean, some of the Scientologists are good people. I know that. But for the dirty ones and the ones that are... Okay, if you witnessed abuse of children, which is highly likely if you went to do auditing at the Fort Harrison Hotel, or if you were audited by children, you are complicit in the abuse of children. Facts. And whenever you own up to it, I want to see some of these parents speak out about how they know they mistreated their children. And I've run into Scientologists, like online, as far as reading articles, that are very, very remorseful. And it's time. Because the piper's coming. Guadalupe's port city, Ponte Pitre, is a cruise ship destination. But Scientology's passenger ship, the Free Winds, which sails in the Caribbean, does not stop there. Former church members said. They are restarting their lives. Isn't that great? They get a chance to restart their lives when all those children are locked up in those hotels, in blue buildings, LAPD, Clearwater PD. For the second time in the last 5 years, Sid Donnelly, a former journalist who said he also is a licensed Baptist minister. Connect the dots, you guys. He noted that Guadalupe Islanders speak French, but Cook and Baumgartner do not. Is that supposed to be news? Who cares if they speak French? What does that have to do with anything? The church did not respond Tuesday to a request for comment. They never do. And efforts to reach Cook and Baumgartner were unsuccessful. You guys think that that's a coincidence? Scientology didn't respond and Cook didn't respond? Wake up. They're still Scientologists. In their hearts and in their... They probably some of those practicing Scientologists that are no longer in Scientology. Their relocation likely is the final chapter in a brief but eventful showdown that generated a torrent of negative publicity for the church and its leader, David Miscavige, otherwise known as Black PR. Isn't it great that they can go trollop off to a new location and start a new life while those children are locked up in those buildings, being sexually abused, being physically assaulted, being neglected, not given enough food, while their parents just hand them over and everybody's got an excuse why they handed their children over. For any of you Scientologists listening, that's abuse. And I feel sad for you that you cannot admit that your mother or your father abused you, handed you over like a piece of property. If they didn't check on you, that's because they didn't care. I don't want to hear any more excuses. And I know it's painful, but you need to freaking wake up to that. You need to wake up to it. The drama started, where have we heard that before? You guys know who was talking about that, right? Wake up. I'm going to change it because I want to. The lies started on New Year's Eve. Cook sent an email from her home, because she was such a brave, courageous woman, to hundreds of Scientology parishioners, not the kids though, because the kids are locked up, urging they stand up to aggressive church money-raising tactics and other practices. What about the child abuse, Debbie Cook? Huh? Nobody talks about the child abuse, do they? Because those children are making you money and you know it. I'm sick of you. It's disgusting what's going on with those children. And time is the MF now to pay the frickin' piper. The Scientology community was stunned. What about the children? Cook, 50, widely respected, feared was what she was. She was an abuser. I'm so sick of this. Among parishioners, fake parishioners, you see who's paying Tampa Bay. Had run the church's worldwide spiritual headquarters in Clearwater for 17 years. So that means she abused those children for 17 years. And probably longer. Because she was one of those, power hungry. Chances are she was a narcissist. A lot of them wind up in those kind of positions. Her surprise email was forwarded to thousands of inboxes. Cook and Baumgarten had left the church's religious order, the Sea Organization in October 2007. Does anyone have that email that she sent? I would love to read that. You know, it would be interesting to read it, because I'm sure they don't talk about the children being essayed and all the cover-up of the children being essayed and abused in there. It's disgusting. All these levels of people, like protecting these people, helps more children get more diabolically abused in there. And honestly, a lot of the Satanists aren't even with that. I'm being honest. A lot of those Satanists don't believe in this stuff. They don't. They signed lengthy non-disclosure contracts agreeing to say nothing about church operations. The church paid each $50,000. They moved to San Antonio and started their business. Isn't that great, you guys? But meanwhile, the children are locked up in those, what do they call them? Dormitory, which is technically like, they try to pretend they're military. They lock these children up. A lot of them are six bunk beds high. I've heard stories. A lot of them are 6. You know, if you weren't on a bunk bed with 6, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. A lot of them were 6. And those mattresses were nasty. A lot of times these children did not get sheets. And if they did get sheets, they were nasty. And a lot of the mattresses were urine soaked. And you know why those mattresses are urine soaked? From trauma. And I really wish some of these Scientology children would wake up to the level of trauma that they went through. And stop giving your parents a pass. And yes, I do know a lot of the parents were under duress. I understand that. But there comes a time when you stand up for your children. And the Scientology children that don't acknowledge that, to me, is extremely sad. It's extremely sad. It doesn't mean you have to hate your mother or your father. You know, every situation is a little different. But who stood up for the children? Nobody. And now's the time. The church responded to Cook's email by suing her, as they always do, in Baumgarten in civil court in San Antonio, asking a judge to enforce the non-disclosure contracts. Oh, they love those non-disclosures. So does Rinder. And awarded at least $300,000 in damages. The action led to a hearing on February 9th. Church attorneys called Cook as a witness. Wait until this. I'm going to wait for this one. But that backfired when Cook's attorney was allowed to follow with a question of his own. The result, 3 hours of riveting testimony. Cook described being physically abused. Yeah, Debbie, like all the children that were abused in the Fort Harrison Hotel. Did you physically abuse them? Inquiring minds want to know, did you physically abuse those children in Fort Harrison Hotel? Have the audacity to talk about your abuse. Whether you did it or not, you were complicit in abuse of children. That's an MF fact. By church staffers at Miscavige's direction and held against her will. What about the children that were held against their will and made to give massages to grown-ass men asking sexual questions? You got better payment for that, didn't you, Debbie Cook? You sure did. You took that dirty money real quick. Did you help pay off some of those Clearwater PD? Allegedly? Inquiring minds want to know. Has the nerve to even say this. Physically abused by church staffers at Miscavige's direction and held against her will for 7 weeks. How many years have those children been held against their will? What about the children in Fort Harrison right now being held against their will on Sea Org Alley? Go just check Darth Xander out. With other Sea Org officers in a locked and guarded building at the church's campus outside Los Angeles. Los Angeles! Hey, LAPD, what's up? She said she also witnessed church staffers. Oh, of course it wasn't her, right? I love when they don't give names, because you know what? The names are coming out. And all these abusers that croaked, we're going to make sure that their names get out there for all the abuse that they put on the children. Facts. Witness church staffers beat up and taunt their peers. You always look at the words that replace children. Peers could be, well, she's talking about the older ones, I guess. You know what? Maybe they were getting their karma for being so abusive to the children. Excuse my French, you guys, I'm going to swear right now. Maybe these motherfuckers were getting their karma for abusing all these little children. Maybe the roost came to call for them, while demanding confessions of wrongdoing. What about all the confessions of wrongdoing that the children have to own up to? When they get ethics handled, when they have to make amends, all the punishments, the RPF, the estates project force that you abuse them heinously. What about those children? Can't wait to see karma knock on your door. After the testimony, the church said Cook was clearly bitter and falsely vilifying the religion she once was part of. You mean the fake religion? Give me a break. She just saved herself is what she did. You know, that's a real trend among the prestigious executives, saving themselves. A second day of testimony was scheduled, but the church ended it soon after it started. The public skirmish continued another month, with the church moving for a quick judgment in its favor, and Cook's team responding with demands to depose church staff and gather other evidence. The two parties then began lengthy statement talks, reaching an agreement assigned April 23rd. Cook and Baumgarten recommitted to nearly all the terms of their 2007 non-disclosure contracts. They can have no contact with current or former Scientologists. Yeah, like we believe that. How is that even legal to make people not talk to people? Oh man, all these non-disclosure agreements, you know, they're being looked at pretty closely because initially they were meant for businesses, not like anyone to just use them willy-nilly, which is going on now. Okay, anyone else who has said or written or produced anything negative about the church or intends to. It's the mind control. That's why they got to keep the mind control in place. Their business was destroyed. So what? You got what you had coming, Cook. Their attorney, Ray Jeffries, said many clients were Scientologists who severed ties. You see how funny they are? That attorney should have said, yeah, that was disconnection. Fighting off the church wore them down. Aww, poor Debbie. Donnelly said, I really believe they had no idea, even after being on the inside, the church was going to come after them. Like you came after the children, Debbie Cook? The agreement says neither party took money from the other in ending the lawsuit. Not known as whether the two parties reached an undisclosed side agreement. That's pretty obvious right now. Donnelly said Baumgarten stuck to the language in the agreement. When they met shortly after the talks ended, he said he and Cook walked away with nothing. So what? Those children have nothing. So you got karma, Donnelly said. The couple was no more forthcoming, saving themselves. No more forthcoming last week when Donnelly joined them for a goodbye dinner. They kept their mouths shut and went with them and Jeffrey to see the movie Prometheus. They probably got like a low down death threats. You guys know that. People have no stones in this world. Donnelly asked if their move out of the country was a condition of the settlement. They looked me right in the eyes and said, we can't talk about that, he said. Well, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm just going to say it how it is. Pussies. Pussies. Walking around trying to act like they're the military. They could never make it in the military. Bunch of cowards. Bunch of frickin' cowards. Go into a bar with a bunch of army guys and see how that shit's going to go. Try it. Just try it. Just try it. Go into a little small town where you got a lot of country boys and country girls and try that shit. See how it's going to go. We live in a world of cowards right now. Thomas C. Coben, editor, Education in Clearwater. So anyways, that's it. I'll leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.